This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. We end today's show with a longtime war crimes prosecutor, Reed Brody. He's been closely following a number of stories that revolve around law and accountability. From the international fallout over the Epstein files to this week's hearing in The Hague on whether former Filipino President Rodrigo Duterte should stand trial before the International Criminal Court, to today, this fourth anniversary of Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Reed Brody is a member of the International Commission of Jurists and author of To Catch a Dictator, The Pursuit and Trial of Hissène Habre. Reed, let's begin with the arrest of Peter Mandelson, the former British ambassador to the United States, accused of passing confidential government information to Jeffrey Epstein while he was serving as Britain's trade secretary. His arrest comes days after the also arrest of the former Prince Andrew. Neither of them are being charged for abuse of minors or girls and women, though the emails are, to say the least, stunning and horrifying between them and Jeffrey Epstein after he was known to abuse children. But talk about what is happening abroad and what is happening here at home as a result of the fallout from the Epstein files.
Well, it's really crazy how you have, throughout Europe, all of these heads rolling and all of these arrests, and relatively little accountability in the United States. And I think one of the reasons we're seeing, all these Epstein-related arrests across Europe is that prosecutors and police are generally independent of political power. I mean, the Metropolitan Police did not have to ask anybody to go and arrest Peter Mandelson or the former Prince Andrew. In the United States, the federal prosecutors and the FBI are only going to investigate those people who Donald Trump wants investigated. And so there is no prosecutorial independence in the United States. There have been calls, and I think, for a special counsel to investigate the Epstein affair.
Here.
That would be what would normally happen if there's a conflict of interest. But of course, we know that in Trump's first term, when Jeff Sessions appointed Robert Mueller as special counsel, he was fired. So there's not going to be a special counsel. There's not going to be, investigations of political figures here because the Justice Department in the United States has been acting like Donald Trump's private law firm. And so, I think there are a number of other, I get asked all the time in Europe, why isn't there more accountability here in the United States? And I think that's one big reason. I also think, the class issue that Ro Khanna is always talking about, how these are billionaires, who abuse working class women. I think that's resonates more in European societies somewhat than in American societies. But I think, this cannot be the end of the affair, so to speak, for the Epstein file. We're going to see this continue.
Reed, there was a panel of independent experts appointed by the United Nations Human Rights Council that has actually called for an independent and impartial investigation of the alleged sex crimes contained in the Epstein files. And the panel said, quote, "So grave is the scale, nature, systematic character, and transnational reach of these atrocities against women and girls that a number of them may reasonably meet the legal threshold of crimes against humanity." The importance of this effort, and do you think it has any prospects?
Well, I think, there can be international investigations. The problem is that the actual files, the actual power to call witnesses and to get to the bottom of this is here in the United States, with federal authorities. And of course, some states now can take up the slack. In New York State, there is no statute of limitations for the worst sex crimes. So you could see state prosecutors taking this up.
I want to turn for a moment, we're trying to get to a lot of issues in these few minutes, to the ICC, the hearing ICC at The Hague around the Filipino President Duterte, who was arrested and being held there.
Well, I mean, this is a monumental event for the Philippines. I mean, the former head of state, the former president, these are confirmation of charges hearings to determine whether he should stand trial for having allegedly ordered and instigated the killing, the extrajudicial killing of alleged drug dealers. I mean, thousands, potentially tens of thousands of Filipinos have been killed. Ironically, speaking of double standards, these are the same crimes which Donald Trump has presumptively committed by the strikes that you reported earlier in the Caribbean. The extrajudicial execution without due process of alleged drug dealers. But Rodrigo Duterte is in The Hague and Donald Trump is in the White House. I think, this is also a watershed moment for the International Criminal Court to have a former head of state in the dock. In 24 years and at a cost of probably $3 billion, the International Criminal Court has never successfully captured and prosecuted and convicted any state official anywhere, much less a former head of state. And so, Rodrigo Duterte probably thought he was home free. But, you also have a number of other people who've been indicted by the ICC. Vladimir Putin, Benjamin Netanyahu, Min Aung Hlaing of Myanmar. So a bunch of former heads of state out there, but they haven't been brought in. The International Criminal Court does not have a police force. So this is a major moment for international justice and for the ICC.
And Reed, we only have about a minute left, but I'm wondering, the world is marking the 4th anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. There are no signs of it stopping soon. President Trump promised on day one he'd end the war. Here, a year later, it's still not ended. Why does peace seem so out of reach?
Well, I think, this is a policy on both sides of endless war. I mean, talking about, accountability, Actually, the Russian invasion and Russian crimes in Ukraine have led to probably the most coordinated international justice response in history. I mean, the International Criminal Court has indicted Vladimir Putin and his Minister for Child Affairs for thousands of Ukrainian children who were kidnapped. You have 4 other, the former chiefs of staff and defense minister and 2 generals who have been indicted for attacking Ukraine's civilian infrastructure. You have tens of thousands of cases, war crimes cases going through the Ukrainian courts. And you have the recently created special tribunal on aggression against Ukraine that may prosecute Russian leaders for the worst crime that was committed, which was the invasion of Ukraine. All these accountability things are moving forward, but peace doesn't seem anywhere closer than it did 4 years ago.
We want to thank you, Reed Brody, longtime war crimes prosecutor and member of the International Commission of Jurists. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.